It was a hot May afternoon in 2025 when Ibrahim Traoré, the young and determined president of Burkina Faso, received an unexpected phone call. His advisor, Yakuba Sawado, was on the line, speaking with a sense of urgency. "Mr. President, you need to see this immediately," Yakuba said, his voice filled with concern. Ibrahim, who had been in a crucial meeting with his ministers discussing several infrastructure projects, paused mid-sentence. The business of the country could wait for a moment. Something was happening that could change everything. With a signal from Ibrahim, Yakuba pulled up the video on his tablet. The two men watched in silence as the screen displayed a familiar face, the American TV host, Jasmine Crockett. Ibrahim's ministers looked on, clearly puzzled by the sudden interruption, but it wasn't long before their confusion shifted to shock as the video unfolded. The show began with Jasmine smiling into the camera, and then she casually addressed the audience. "Have you heard about this guy from Burkina Faso?" she asked, the tone of her voice already dripping with disdain. "Ibrahim Traoré, 35 years old, and he thinks he's the savior of Africa. This kid in a soldier's uniform looks like he's playing dress-up. Does he even understand how to lead a country?" The laughter in the studio grew louder, and the camera panned to the audience, who were all amused by the insult. Ibrahim could hear every word, but what really hit him was the mocking tone. His ministers, sitting around him, began to shift uncomfortably in their seats. Dr. Alonso Ouedraogo, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, was the first to speak up. "This is absolutely unacceptable," Dr. Ouedraogo fumed, her eyes narrowed. "She's not just mocking you, Mr. President, she's insulting our entire nation." But Ibrahim said nothing. His face was impassive, though his fists clenched on the table. He understood that this wasn't just an attack on him. This was an attack on the dignity of his people, on the progress Burkina Faso was making under his leadership. Jasmine's words didn't just sting. They were a slap to everything his country had worked for. The video continued as Jasmine went further. "Seriously, someone needs to explain to this kid that leading a country is not the same as playing video games. Maybe he should go back to school instead of pretending to be president. Maybe that's what he needs, a good education." The laughter in the studio grew even louder, and Jasmine's voice seemed to grow more mocking as she added, "And don't even get me started on that name. Ibrahim Traoré. Sounds like a character from a Mexican soap opera. Maybe someone should tell him that real life is different from TV." Ibrahim remained still, watching the screen without reacting. His ministers exchanged glances of disbelief, their faces flushed with anger. Dr. Ouedraogo was the first to speak again, her voice rising with emotion. "Mr. President, this is a direct attack on your leadership, on our people," she said, her hands shaking with fury. "She's humiliating not only you but our entire country. This cannot stand." Ibrahim took a deep breath and slowly closed the tablet, cutting off the video. He didn't need to watch the rest. The message was clear, and it was devastating. Jasmine Crockett, an American politician with millions of followers, had ridiculed him and his country in front of the world. The question wasn't whether the insult would spread, it already had. The question now was how to respond. He turned to his staff, his face a mask of calm determination. "Call an emergency meeting. We need to teach Ms. Crockett a lesson about respect and dignity," he said, his voice unwavering. In the hours that followed, the news of Jasmine's mockery exploded across social media. In Burkina Faso, university students staged spontaneous protests in the streets. Ouagadougou, the capital, was filled with students holding signs that read, "Respect our president," and "Jasmine Crockett doesn't know us." The video was shared millions of times, sparking outrage not only in Africa, but across the globe. The hashtag number Respect Burkina Faso quickly began to trend worldwide, a direct response to Jasmine's words. Ibrahim was in his office when his wife, Ajara Traoré, walked in, visibly upset. She had seen the video, and it had left her shaking with anger. "Ibrahim, how could she say something like that?" she demanded. "How dare she talk about you and us like that? The entire world is watching. We can't let this go unnoticed." Ibrahim, ever the calm presence, embraced his wife. "Honey, ignorant people have always existed. Jasmine just exposed herself. She showed the world her true face. This is an opportunity, not just for us, but for the entire continent." Ajara shook her head, still angry. "She has millions of followers, Ibrahim. She is spreading a false image about Burkina Faso to the world." Ibrahim nodded, his face hardening with resolve. "That's why we're going to do something about it. We need to show the world who we really are. This isn't just about me, or even our country. This is about changing the narrative." As Ibrahim sat back in his chair, contemplating the next steps, his economy minister, Fatimata Sawado, walked in with a pile of reports. "Mr. President, the impact of Jasmine's words is already being felt internationally. American investors are pulling out. We've already had 3 major meetings canceled for next week." Ibrahim stared at the reports, his expression darkening. The numbers didn't lie. This was more than an insult. It was a potential setback for the entire country's growth. "This is a direct consequence of ignorance," Ibrahim said quietly. "But it's also an opportunity to educate the world about who we are, what we stand for, and what we are achieving." At that moment, Yakuba Sawado interrupted. His face lit up with excitement as he rushed into the room. "Mr. President, you need to see this. The hashtag number Respect Burkina Faso is trending worldwide, and African leaders are speaking out in defense of you." Ibrahim nodded. He knew that the support from his fellow African leaders would be crucial. "We have the support of the people, but we need to do more than just react emotionally," he said, looking at his team with a calm yet determined gaze. "Our response needs to be intelligent, educational, and devastating." And with that, Ibrahim and his team began to craft the perfect response. They were going to take the world by storm, but not with anger or violence. They would respond with the truth, with dignity, and with a message that would shake the world to its core. The stage was set for a response that would not only challenge Jasmine's ignorance, but would also introduce the world to the real Burkina Faso, a nation on the rise, led by a president who had the wisdom and the courage to turn mockery into opportunity. The next day, after the outcry had reached a boiling point, Ibrahim sat in his office, absorbing the reality of the situation. The phone calls, the messages, and the uproar from across the continent were undeniable. His people were furious, and it was clear that the eyes of the world were on him. "Mr. President, the damage is growing," said Fatimata Sawado, his economy minister. She laid out a series of reports, the numbers stark and alarming. "Jasmine's comments have already cost us. 3 major American investors have canceled their meetings scheduled for next week. Our international image is suffering." Ibrahim carefully reviewed the data, each statistic a reflection of what was at stake. The mockery was not just an insult, it was beginning to impact real-world consequences. But Ibrahim was not one to react impulsively. He had a deeper understanding of how to wield power and influence. "I see," Ibrahim muttered, his voice steady, but his mind racing. "This shows how ignorance can have tangible consequences, but it also shows that we need to take control of the narrative. We can't let this define us." Just then, Yakuba Sawado, his communications advisor, entered the room, his face lighting up with news. "Mr. President, there's something you need to see." He quickly pulled up a new set of social media trends. "The hashtag number sign, Respect Burkina Faso, is going viral. It's trending worldwide. African leaders are stepping up in support of you." Ibrahim's gaze sharpened as he looked at the data. "So, we have the support of other African leaders," he said. "But we cannot let this become a political game. We need to respond with dignity, with intelligence, and with force." The room grew silent as Ibrahim leaned back in his chair, formulating his next move. He had been preparing for something like this, understanding the world's tendency to diminish Africa's achievements. He knew that this moment could either reinforce old stereotypes or allow him to rewrite the narrative. We need to turn this around. Our response must be calculated, intelligent, educational, and most of all, impactful, he said, his voice firm. Ibrahim stood up, his face set with determination. I want a special meeting with the entire communications team. We'll plan our next move carefully. We're going to turn this insult into an opportunity. Later that day, the conference room at the presidential palace was packed with ministers, communications experts, and strategists. The mood was tense, but it was also charged with energy. Everyone knew this meeting would define the next phase of their response. Gentlemen, Ibrahim began, his voice steady as he addressed the room. We have a chance to do something powerful. Jasmine Crockett has exposed her ignorance to the world. Now it's our turn to show the world who we really are. Yakuba Sawado immediately opened his laptop, showing the team the viral video and the backlash it had stirred. The video is spreading fast, and it's gaining traction in places we didn't expect. People are talking about Burkina Faso, about Africa, but most of it is misinformation. We need to address that. Ibrahim nodded thoughtfully. It's time to give the world a reality check. We're going to respond on her turf, but we're not going to stoop to her level. We'll do this our way, with dignity and grace. Dr. Wedigo, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, leaned forward, intrigued. What's the strategy, Mr. President? How do we hit back without sounding defensive? Ibrahim smiled subtly, a calm, knowing expression on his face. We are going to use her own platform against her, but we won't use artificial responses. We want authenticity, powerful, real, and unapologetic. The video we create will be about showing the true Burkina Faso, not the one Jasmine Crockett imagines, but the one that is transforming, thriving, and growing. Fatimata Sawado, ever practical, chimed in. We could include the economic data, development projects, and the real progress we're making. This could be an opportunity to educate the world on our efforts. Ibrahim agreed. Absolutely, but we won't stop there. I want to show the world our culture, our people, and our dignity. We've got to break through the stereotypes and demonstrate our substance. The plan was set. Ibrahim's team would prepare a video, but it wouldn't be an ordinary political response. They would film on the ground in Burkina Faso, showcasing everything that was wrong with the lazy, uninformed assumptions made by Jasmine and others. Ibrahim was clear. The video had to be real, raw, and powerful. We'll show them hospitals, schools, and jobs that have been created under my administration, Ibrahim said, outlining his vision. I want to make it clear that we are not some third-world country waiting for charity. We are building the future of Africa, one step at a time. I want to show them the true story of Burkina Faso. The team quickly got to work, making arrangements to shoot across the country. Ibrahim would visit schools, hospitals, factories, and development projects, offering a direct contrast to the mockery that had been thrown at him. He would be surrounded by the very people who had benefited from his leadership, people who would tell the world the truth about their country. We want to show the difference between cheap entertainment and real leadership, Ibrahim said, his voice calm but powerful. We want every American who watches this video to understand that there is more to Africa than what they see on their screens. This is a chance to educate the world, to change the conversation. The days that followed were a blur of planning and logistics. Ibrahim's team worked tirelessly to ensure that everything was in place. The production would be high quality, but it would also remain authentic. No flashy sets or artificial backdrops, just the real Burkina Faso. Ajara, Ibrahim's wife, suggested that they include testimonials from ordinary citizens. Let our people speak for themselves. They've seen the transformation you've brought to the country, she said. Ibrahim agreed. We need the world to hear their voices. They are the ones who are living the changes. The days after the meeting were a whirlwind of activity. Ibrahim's communications team was working around the clock to create the most powerful video response possible. The location was carefully selected. No flashy studio sets or polished lights. This had to be raw, real, and unfiltered, a powerful contrast to the mockery that had been made of Burkina Faso. Ibrahim, always calm under pressure, set the tone. We are going to show the world who we really are. We won't hide behind any illusions. Our strength comes from our people, from our culture, and from the work we are doing every single day. The production team set out to capture that essence. Ibrahim's first stop was his presidential office. Dressed sharply in a suit, with the national flag hanging proudly behind him, he began the video with quiet confidence. "Hello, Ms. Jasmine Crockett," he said directly into the camera, his voice calm but strong. "I am Ibrahim Traoré, the man you mocked on your show. You called me a boy in a costume. You said I don't understand what it means to lead a country. Let me show you the real Burkina Faso, not the one you made fun of on TV." The camera followed Ibrahim as he walked out of the palace and got into a modest car. "You said I looked like I was playing house," Ibrahim continued. "Let me show you what kind of house I work in every day." The first stop was a modern hospital in Ouagadougou, one of the 73 healthcare facilities that had been built in the past 3 years. Before, women would die in childbirth due to a lack of care, Ibrahim explained, walking through the busy halls, doctors and nurses going about their work. But today, our maternal mortality rate has dropped by 67%. We are saving lives every day. The camera captured nurses and doctors tending to patients, showcasing the state-of-the-art equipment. Ibrahim stopped in front of one of the beds, a young woman recovering after childbirth. "This is the real work we do here, Jasmine," he said, looking into the camera. "This is what leadership looks like. We are saving lives, not playing games." Next, the team filmed at a technical school where young students were learning computer programming, robotics, and digital technologies. "You mocked my name, calling me a character from a soap opera," Ibrahim said, walking through the school's corridors where students were hard at work. "But these students don't care about my name. They care about the opportunities we are giving them to learn, to grow, and to build the future." A 19-year-old student named Musa Wedago stepped forward, holding up his laptop. "I developed an app to help farmers optimize irrigation based on weather data," he explained. "It's already being used on 200 farms. Thanks to President Traoré, we now have the resources to turn our ideas into reality." Ibrahim looked directly at the camera, his face serious. "This is what real progress looks like. We're not sitting around waiting for aid. We're creating solutions to our problems with the tools we have." The camera then took a trip to a cotton processing plant, a key player in the country's economy. Ibrahim stood next to a large mechanized cotton harvester, its machines whirring as they efficiently processed the crop. "This plant alone has created 45,000 direct jobs," Ibrahim said, turning to face the camera. "And our cotton is exported to 23 countries around the world. We're not playing games, Jasmine. This is real economic growth." The video continued to build, showcasing more of Burkina Faso's economic strides. Ibrahim walked through fields with mechanized irrigation systems in place, roads being paved, and crops growing in abundance. "You called this a game, but these are the real tools of leadership, and this is how we're shaping the future of our country." Next, Ibrahim's journey took him to a university where students were studying engineering, business, and technology. "Jasmine, you told me to go back to school. Well, I did. I completed my MBA while working day and night to improve my country. My people don't have the luxury of waiting for their leaders to finish their education. They need results now." As Ibrahim stood in front of the university, students walked past, their faces lit with excitement about the future. "These young people, they aren't dreaming of leaving their country anymore," Ibrahim said. They're staying here, building a future for themselves and for Burkina Faso. The final stop on Ibrahim's journey was to the solar energy projects that were beginning to light up entire villages. Burkina Faso is leading West Africa in renewable energy, Ibrahim explained, standing in front of a massive solar panel farm. 95% of our new energy comes from clean sources. We're not waiting for help. We're creating it ourselves. As Ibrahim finished the last leg of his journey, the video began to take shape. It wasn't about flashy cameras or studio lights. It was about showing the world the real Burkina Faso, an emerging nation making strides in health, education, technology, and clean energy. It was about showing the true story of a country that was not a subject for mockery, but one of hope and progress. The video was ready. It was uploaded to every social media platform Ibrahim could think of, from Facebook to Twitter to Instagram. He had crafted his response carefully, calm, firm, and powerful. It was a direct challenge to Jasmine's ignorance, but it was also a chance to educate the world. As soon as the video went live, the response was swift and overwhelming. Within hours, it had gone viral. It was shared millions of times across the globe. The comments were overwhelmingly positive, hailing Ibrahim as a true leader who wasn't afraid to take on ignorance with dignity. "This is the Africa we need to see," one comment read. "Ibrahim Traoré is showing the world what real leadership is. This is what Africa needs, strong, dignified leaders who are changing the world for the better." Soon, even American celebrities, journalists, and politicians began to speak out in Ibrahim's defense. Oprah Winfrey tweeted, "This is what real leadership looks like. Education and dignity always win over ignorance." And it wasn't just people on social media. In the halls of power, leaders from around the world were watching, and they were impressed. Many reached out to Ibrahim, offering their congratulations on his calm and powerful response to the attacks. As Ibrahim watched the response unfold, he knew that his decision to stand tall in the face of mockery was going to have lasting effects. It wasn't just about defending Burkina Faso. It was about changing how the world saw Africa. He had turned an insult into an opportunity, and he had done it with grace and power. This was the real power of leadership, not to respond with anger or violence, but to rise above it and show the world what true strength looked like. The response to Ibrahim Traoré's video was swift and impactful. Within hours, the video was circulating around the world, generating a massive wave of support. Across social media, people were praising the dignified and powerful manner in which Ibrahim had handled Jasmine Crockett's insults. The response was overwhelming, and it became clear that the narrative was shifting. In the United States, Jasmine Crockett's show was facing increasing scrutiny. Her producers were in a state of panic as they saw the backlash unfold. The video's popularity was undeniable, and it wasn't just hurting her credibility, it was damaging her brand. The backlash was not just from the African community. People from all walks of life, regardless of nationality, were recognizing the importance of Ibrahim's response. "Jasmine, you need to see this," one of her producers said urgently as he approached her. He pulled up the numbers on the screen, showing how quickly the video had gained traction. "This is getting out of control. People are rallying behind Ibrahim Traoré." Jasmine's face dropped as she saw the data. She had underestimated the power of her words. "I didn't realize how big this was going to get," she muttered under her breath, her expression one of disbelief. She had made a grave mistake, and it was clear that Ibrahim's response had completely turned the situation on its head. Ibrahim, meanwhile, was calm and collected, his resolve strengthened by the overwhelming support he was receiving. He had turned an insult into a platform for educating the world about Burkina Faso and, by extension, about Africa as a whole. He had shown that strength and dignity could overcome even the most toxic forms of criticism. A few days later, Jasmine made a public apology on her show. Her demeanor was entirely different. There was no laughter, no jest, only sincerity. "I want to take a moment to apologize. she began, her voice calm but filled with regret. I made comments about President Ibrahim Traoré that were completely inappropriate and ignorant. The studio, usually filled with lightheartedness, was eerily quiet. Jasmine's words were not just an apology, but a genuine admission of her failure to understand the situation. I mocked a man who is working tirelessly to improve his country and the lives of its people. I mocked a nation I know nothing about, and for that, I am truly sorry. She continued, showing clips from Ibrahim's video, the same video that had taken the world by storm. Ibrahim Traoré is not a boy in a costume. He is a leader who is transforming his country in ways I failed to comprehend, Jasmine said, her tone solemn. I owe him and the people of Burkina Faso an apology. As Jasmine spoke, she made another important announcement. I will be visiting Burkina Faso in person to learn more about the country and its incredible progress, she said, her voice filled with genuine intent. I also plan to make a $1 million donation to support education in Burkina Faso. Ibrahim, watching the apology in his office, remained stoic. Ajara, his wife, sat beside him, a soft smile forming on her face. She seems sincere, she remarked, but Ibrahim's response was calm, measured. Repentance is the first step to growth. Let's give her the chance to learn. The days following Jasmine's apology were a whirlwind. She arrived in Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, where she was greeted by Ibrahim himself. The media swarmed, but this time there were no insults, no mockery, just genuine curiosity. Jasmine, nervous but determined, stepped off the plane, knowing that this visit would be the first step in a journey of understanding. Ibrahim, thank you for welcoming me, Jasmine said as they shook hands. I know I don't deserve this kindness after everything I said. Ibrahim, ever gracious, smiled and responded, Everyone deserves a second chance to learn. He then guided her through the country, showing her the hospitals, schools, and other development projects that were the backbone of Burkina Faso's transformation. Jasmine's eyes widened with each new sight. She had no idea how far the country had come under Ibrahim's leadership. At one hospital, Jasmine spoke with doctors and patients, seeing firsthand the impact of Burkina Faso's improved healthcare system. I never imagined an African country could have such advanced medical technology, Jasmine confessed, her voice tinged with awe. This is incredible. The visit continued with stops at a university where students were learning to code and design software. Jasmine spoke with students like Musa Wadago, who had developed an app to help farmers optimize irrigation based on weather patterns. The app was already being used on over 200 farms. I thought you didn't even have internet here, Jasmine laughed nervously, surprised by the level of technological progress. By the time her visit came to an end, Jasmine was visibly changed. The woman who had once mocked Ibrahim was now humbled, asking questions, listening intently, and reflecting on what she had learned. I came here with one perspective, but I'm leaving with a completely different view of Africa, she admitted. Jasmine's visit culminated in a broadcast where she confessed to the world the truth of her transformation. What I saw in Burkina Faso has completely changed my understanding of the continent. I was wrong, and I am truly sorry for the harm I caused, she said during a live broadcast to her viewers back in the United States. Africa is not what I thought it was. It is a land of innovation, leadership, and progress, led by men like President Ibrahim Traoré.